was diagnosed with a very aggressive, rapid growing version of breast cancer, which was quite the shock and not necessarily something anyone wants to come popping into their lives. But as part of that, fast forward through it, just to relieve all of our audience here, is that I am doing quite well. I am in full remission and very healthy and happy to still be here. But I was given only a plus 10% chance of survival when I was first diagnosed.
What?
So it was a bit of a shocking journey, but we will skip forward a little bit in that journey to where I was rapidly admitted to have surgery to address the cancer, and I needed someone to be with me. And I was given 2 days notice. They were able to squeeze me into the surgical schedule with very, very short notice. And I reached out to a friend and said, would you mind flying across the country? It will need to be tomorrow because my surgery is in less than 48 hours. And my dear friend, her name is Danica, was very kind and dropped everything to fly across the country to be with me.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Ilya, the happiness doctor.
And Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another edition of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Randy McNeely, known as the Kindness Giver, and I'm delighted to be here with my other better half, the Happy Greek, Dr. Ilya Gorgoris, known as the Happiness Doctor. And we are totally thrilled today to have the opportunity to be joined by Elaine Glencoe. And just a very short, sweet, direct bio for her. Elaine is a leadership development trainer and coach, and she works to help leaders become more amazing. Elaine, we're just thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for being willing to join us today.
Absolutely, Randy. And Ilya, thank you so much for the opportunity to be back with both of you gentlemen. It is my honor and my pleasure.
Well, my goodness.
Look at that smile. You get the best smile, Elaine. You know that? The best smile.
Thank you.
Well, and there's a wonderful thing. We are tremendously blessed to be able to still see that smile. Now, Elaine, you've had some rough patches over the last couple of years, and how about, would you be willing to share with our audience a little bit about the kindness experiences that you've had in the last year and a half that have really been transformative in your life?
Absolutely. Thank you for that wonderful question. And you're right. I've had some rough patches in the past couple of years. I have moved across the country to take a new job in a industry that I had never worked in. I was a software product trainer for a UK-based company. So that was a new experience for me. And then shortly thereafter, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive, rapid growing version of breast cancer, which was quite the shock and not necessarily something anyone wants to come popping into their lives. But as part of that, fast forward through it, just to relieve all of our audience here, is that I am doing quite well. I am in full remission and very healthy and happy to still be here. But I was given only a plus 10% chance of survival when I was first diagnosed.
What?
So it was a bit of a shocking journey, but we will skip forward a little bit in that journey to where I was rapidly admitted to have surgery to address the cancer. And I needed someone to be with me. And I was given 2 days notice. They were able to squeeze me into the surgical schedule with very, very short notice. And I reached out to a friend and said, would you mind flying across the country? It will need to be tomorrow because my surgery is in less than 48 hours. And my dear friend, her name is Danica, was very kind and dropped everything to fly across the country to be with me. And it was a very, very big lesson, since we like to talk about kindness here, a very big lesson about that it's wonderful that we're givers and we enjoy that giving process. It's really, really an important part of being what's good in our world. But it's also really, really important to be good at the balance part of that, which is accepting and receiving care and kindness from others as well, and allowing other people to be there for us. And that was really, really hard for me. I'm very much used to being a giver and doing things for other people, and I really enjoy that. But being in the position of saying I need help and reaching out and receiving that kindness was a really important part of my journey as well, to say I'm worth it and it's okay for me to receive as well, and to really express appreciation for that and to feel that love into my life as well was really, really beneficial for me.
So Elaine, thank you first of all for sharing that. And we've known you for a long time. So for the audience, this is not our first rodeo with Elaine. So we're so grateful that you're healthy and you're in full remission, and you look great. You look really healthy.
Yeah.
But as you share that story, the thought that came to my mind is, if the roles were reversed and it was Danica that called you and said, "Hey, I'm in aggressive breast cancer. I'm going to surgery. Will you come?" And you would do the same thing for her in a heartbeat. You wouldn't even think about it. You'd fly across
No.
the nation to do that. But it couldn't have been easy for you to ask. Like, to me, that's a big ask, just to tell somebody else, drop everything. I'm going to need you because I'm going in. How did you get to that point? Because I think a lot of us, it's not easy to do it. That's a big ask that you asked for, and yes, you did it immediately. How did you get to the point where you were okay to ask for that kind of help?
Oh, that's a great question. It was really, really difficult for me. I had left my surgical oncologist's office and I was walking out to my car and just processing through, okay, what are my options? Could I take a taxi to the hospital and then take a taxi home? And I'm thinking, I'm gonna have drains, and it probably would be better for me if I had someone there to help me. And it hadn't even occurred to me, the whole idea of you can't reach above a certain level with your arms when you have drains. And that hadn't even occurred to me. So in fairness, I did have two other friends also come at two different times. So I do want to also say that thank you to my friend Trisha and Deanna, who also came for my second surgery. But it was very difficult. And I actually went out and I sat in my car and finally said, Elaine, because you're absolutely right. In the past, when my friends have needed things, I have literally gotten onto a plane and gone and helped them move, or with their moms or anything like that. So I thought, you know what? I think this is part of your learning journey of, the balance is there between receiving and giving, and that you enjoy giving to other people. And sometimes it can be selfish and self-centered to say, oh no, I'm the only one who can give, almost.
It's an interesting
And
point. True.
yes, and
Yeah.
that receiving allows other people the same joy that we experience in giving as well. So I'm actually interested that this is a parallel to one of our prior conversations where we talked about that in accepting credit and taking responsibility for things, that we need the balance between the two of those, is a prior conversation that the three of us have had when you have invited me before. So again, I think we're circling back to the idea of having balance and allowing others to experience the joy in giving as well, by being a grateful, gracious recipient of their care for us.
Very
That's,
well said. Wow.
that's beautiful. Sometimes it's just not easy. I'm a giver, and I'll readily admit that it's so much easier for me to give than it is to ask somebody to do something, ask for help. I've gotten better at it. I've had to, I needed to reach out for help when my wife was diagnosed with cancer this last year. But it's almost like, in my own experience, for me to do that is like, it's almost like trying to take a crowbar to somebody who's tight with their money and pry open their wallet. It's hard for me to pry open my heart to a point where I'm willing to ask. So I
But
think
you did ask, though. You also asked for help.
I did.
You did.
It was not an easy thing because I have a lot of pride, way more pride than I should have. But that's the thing that's important of this message that you're giving, Elaine, is that we have to be willing to come to that point where we're open to receiving and like you said, allowing the people who want to help us and want to serve us to receive the same blessings we would receive if the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
What's the impact on you though, to be on the receiving end of that kind of love and service? How did that impact you?
Oh, I think like Randy, it's a struggle, to say like this is okay, I am worthy also of receiving, and it's a balance. It's something that um I think I use the analogy in my own head about, when we invest into each other, it's almost as if you're paying into a bank account
Mhm.
and you're building up that sense of grace and abundance between the two of you. And it's something that both of you can withdraw upon. I think that's not quite the way that
Uh,
I want to put it, but that there's the sense of abundance between the two of you, that you both invest in having a friendship or a relationship with one another, that balance creates an even healthier environment. And there is something that I've attached to this, is if I'm not willing to share my feelings or my needs with someone else, I'm actually creating the environment where they feel more hesitant to do the same. And so again, coming back to that balance. And so it has been very much a learning opportunity for me and a growth journey for me to say, if I want people to feel truly comfortable and do so in a way that's healthy for both of us, then I have to demonstrate that same behavior by not only be willing to give, but also be willing to receive, so that they feel comfortable in doing the same.
I'm sure you and Danica had already a very close relationship, or else you wouldn't have called her to do that. But I bet that your relationship now with Danica has been transformed as a result of the experience you went together. Because there's no way that didn't have an impact. The depth and the connection between the two of you, your relationship will never be the same.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I was so grateful for her, and you're absolutely right. Our friendship with all three of the ladies who came, at different points. Oh, and Stephanie, my friend Stephanie. Oh, terrible of me. Yes, she also came a couple of weeks later to check on me, and I'm grateful to all four of them. It has been such a blessing, and it really, with all four of them in different ways, has deepened our relationship, and I'm very powerfully appreciative of all of that, and recognizing that, just how you said, that it has absolutely deepened our relationship, because I have been willing to say, I don't need to just be the only one giving, that I can also receive, so that they can experience the joy in giving, and allow for them to feel more comfortable perhaps in reaching out to me as well, in ways that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise.
That's so, excuse me, that's so beautiful, Elaine. And you know what's amazing is Ilya and I are sitting here, and we're seeing your smiling, beautiful face, and the light that is there. I mean, look at that smile. It's just amazing. The light that is there. And thinking about, as you talk about your friends and the kindness that they gave you, I can't help but wonder, how has that kindness that they extended to you impacted your desire to go out and to pay it forward, to give kindness away to other people? Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely appreciate you. So here's the question for you. Do the guests and the messages we're sharing resonate with you? If so, we'd like to invite you to join us in our efforts to spread love through kindness around the world. You can do so simply by visiting our Buzzsprout subscription page at the link listed in the description and taking out a monthly subscription. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you for your support.
So it has impacted me in how I have viewed the opportunities that I have had to be a positive influence on other women's lives who are going through the breast cancer journey as well. I've been involved with several different groups and collections of people that have involved the breast cancer journey in a variety of different ways, and the opportunity to show them that, receiving is okay and that giving is still good because it does support our health and our immune system as well. But maintaining, again, that coming back to our word balance today, is that both sides of that coin are healthy. And if you don't do both, it's unhealthy for you and other people around you. So it definitely has emphasized to me that I have the opportunity now to reach out and share my journey and how that balance has really helped me to be better about caring for myself and doing what's best for me so that I can stay healthy and stay alive. And that has been really, really important. And being able to have a way to share that with other people, not just women, has been something that I'm happy about, because that helps me to feel more like, okay, this wasn't just a blip on my radar. This is something that I can build upon and grow forward from and have it be a blessing to myself and others as I go forward.
Just listening to you, your sweet voice, your beautiful smile, your whole countenance, and to me, and I'm sure it's true for Randy too, you're not here as a podcast guest. I love you, and we love you, and I've missed you, and I'm so glad, and really, Elaine, that you're in full remission. You have so much to give to this world, and yeah, I know this is kind of like very personal. I know this is not how normal interviews go and all that stuff, but I just want to tell you how much I love you and I miss you, and I'm so glad that you're doing well and that you will continue to build the legacy of kindness and love in your sphere of influence. So just this is a side note, but that's how I feel in my heart. I had to say, I had to get it out before we went on for the interview. So
Thank you.
just love you, honey. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys, you two gentlemen have been wonderful, and I've so appreciated the support that you've offered me during this time as well, outside of this podcast show. Thank you so much. And again, it is an honor for me to be here. So thank you.
Well, and I want to, you've gone through the ringer, and we don't need to go through all the details, but you talked about self-care, and my goodness, Elaine, when it comes to self-care, you are one of my heroines. I mean, just knowing what you have gone through. I need to share, there's a lot of people out there who have been through, this challenge of breast cancer or other types of cancer and things like that, and or lost love or had loved ones who've gone through it and that didn't survive. Would you be open to sharing with our audience a little bit about what you've had to do, what you had to go through in order to be able to be sitting here with us today?
Sure, absolutely. So when I hinted at some pretty significant lifestyle changes, I was not kidding. As I mentioned, being told you have a plus 10% chance of survival, I didn't find acceptable. I thought, I think I can find a way to do better than that, or I'm going to live my best life until that happens. Was my two options at that point, and I chose to say I'm going to figure out what I can do. So I will say right up front, for people who may be just starting on your own cancer journey, I'm very, very sorry. And you have my prayers and absolute love, because it is a scary journey. But two statistics that I read that were very helpful for me, that gave me a lot of reassurance, were that number one, cancer cells aren't actually strong, big, scary things, that they actually, and this is probably a really horrible analogy, but it's what I used in my head to make myself feel better, is they're like hummingbirds. They require regular feedings of sugar in order to survive. If they don't have regular feedings, then they get weaker and they are more easily than, we're going to switch over from hummingbirds because it's no longer kind to them. But the cancer cells are no longer able to survive as well. And so your immune system then can take care of them. So making sure that I didn't eat any sugar at all, no sweeteners, not even natural ones. Fruit was the only thing that I had that was of sweetness at all. And making sure that no processed foods, also a big challenge in today's world, was also super helpful to make sure that nothing I was eating was turning into sugar that could then feed the cancer cells. But that was a statistic that I found really beneficial, to not say, oh, I'm fighting this big scary beast. It's, I choose the terminology of saying I was finding ways to make my body inhospitable for cancer growth.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
So for me, that was super helpful, to not be afraid of the cancer, to say I have things that I can do that will help my body be able to kill off the cancer cells just naturally, and that is to starve them um, of sugar.
Obviously, that must have worked. Has that worked? I mean, I would assume,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing along those lines is I do at least a minimum 13 hours of fasting between my dinner and my breakfast. There is research that supports that, going back to my sad little hummingbird analogy, that the longer the cancer cells go without any form of fuel, because, you know, there's some variance on what the statistics show, or what the research shows, but it's roughly 200 times the uptake of glucose that cancer cells do versus regular cells. So if you starve them of any fuel at all, they are more likely to get weaker faster
Wow.
than regular cells. So I do a minimum of 13 hours fasting. So like last night was the last time I've eaten. It's almost noon here. So obviously there are times where I push it a little further than 13 hours, but I was pretty motivated to do that. So clearly that has helped as well. I was going to say the other statistic that I had read that made me feel better was for women specifically, this is breast cancer for women research that was done, that for women who exercise a minimum of 30 minutes, any kind of exercise at all, just movement for a minimum of 30 minutes, 6 to 7 days a week, that they are 50% less likely to have a reoccurrence of cancer at 5 years.
Oh, that
And
is so
so,
educational. Thank you for. I have a quick question. In the
yes.
13 hours, are
Yeah.
you hydrating at least or no?
Oh yeah. Oh,
You
absolutely.
are. Okay.
Absolutely.
Just to
So
clarify.
I can have water. Yes, very good question. So I can have water, I can have unsweetened tea, but those are the two things that I can have during that 13 hours. So that
Gotcha.
is all I do. So as far as my diet, I do primarily organic. I do primarily vegan. Those are because for my specific type of breast cancer, it was fueled by the fact that my body does the first stage of detoxification. So, like, we put on, say, a chapstick that has something in it, or we put on a lotion that has something in it, or we use a laundry detergent that has something in it. And my body absorbs that. It breaks down all of those toxins and does that part really, really well. The part it doesn't do really, really well is come in, attach appropriate things to those broken down cells, and sweep them out of my body. So that second stage of detoxification is where genetically I'm predisposed to having difficulties in dairy, which I did not know until I took a epigenetic test, which revealed that, which was excellent information for me. But so what my body was doing instead was it was attaching estrogen to those cells, and estrogen's purpose specifically in your body is to make things grow. And so it was making these broken down little bits of things grow, and abnormal cells growing also are known as cancer. So actually, for me, my journey, it was very important that I followed a gut sense that I had that chemotherapy wasn't going to be right for me for two reasons. They did an oncotyping test on my particular type of cancer at my insistence, and it was determined that the chemotherapy program that they wanted to put me on would have had 0% effectiveness for my specific cancer.
Wow.
So the other flip side of that is because of the load of toxins in the chemotherapy, it would have actually killed me, because it would have given my body a whole lot of things to break down and no way to get those out of my body. So, so it's been a very interesting journey, very educational. I've learned a lot about ways to keep myself healthy. It has been super helpful that my program has been set up based on my epigenetic testing that was done, so that I know exactly what I need to do and exactly what deficiencies I had in vitamins, minerals, and those kinds of things. But I do eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables. I can promise you, anyone who doesn't like broccoli, this has been a challenge for me. So I eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables. I find ways to hide them from my own self because, well, that's just really helpful. But cruciferous vegetables, sadly for me, are one of the best nutritional binders to attach to toxic things and sweep them out of my body. So I do it, and I refer to laughingly as my chemotherapy, but it's worked. So there we go.
That's
But let
quite,
me see. Anything else that I can
quite
tell
the
you?
education that you gave us. Wow. I mean, no. And in great detail, because I think most of us are not aware that we even have those options, honestly.
Yeah.
You go to the
So
doctor, get a diagnosis, okay, chemotherapy, radiation, or whatever. And what I like about it, what you did, Elaine, is you took charge of your healing.
I did. I did. And I had to. I had to when
You
it was
had to,
determined.
right?
Yeah, when it was determined that chemotherapy wouldn't be effective for me and my specific type of cancer, and they also ruled out that radiation would be something that the benefits would not have outweighed the risks because my breast cancer was on the left side. It was over my heart. So to have radiation in that area would have damaged my heart as well as my lungs. And so they said that will limit your ability to fully participate in life going forward. And I said, quality of life is
That's
more
not
important to
happening.
me. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to have to sit around on the couch and not be able to hike and do outdoor active things, especially since I need to exercise, 6 to 7 days a week, which I do, rain or shine. The only times I don't go outside are when there's lightning or hail. But in all of the times I go out and I get my exercise, which has been, super helpful just as a general health thing. And also managing my stress, which is also another piece is adequate sleep, which we were talking about before the show, has been a challenge for me recently with my job. But adequate sleep, I am supposed to sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. Too much is not good, too little is not good. So again, coming back around to that idea of balance, I have found that interestingly has infused itself into my treatment plan as well. So, but all of that to say, I am healthy, I'm happy, and I am still alive, which I'm grateful for.
And so are we. Oh my goodness. So are we.
And what an inspiration, I think, especially to women who have breast cancer, to hear your story and to remind them to take a more active stance in co-creating perhaps with their physicians and their healing journey,
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to look the way it's supposed to, right? And the epigenetic, that's very interesting to me because that's fairly new. And yet
Yes.
it gives you such a plethora of information that you can have
Yes.
a very targeted treatment
Mhm.
that's unique to Elaine and for everybody else. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that we may not know this, but you may save people's lives as a result of telling your story the way that you did. Seriously.
I do hope so, because obviously for me, anything that I've gone through in my life, if it can be a benefit to someone else, then that, that for me makes it worthwhile. And so, while I am a very private person, this is my first time sharing this openly on LinkedIn. It was important to me that, again, if I can help even just one woman have a little bit less of a scary journey, and, men as well, that will make it more worthwhile. So I appreciate you encouraging me to share my story and allowing me a very safe, comfortable, respectful space to do that in. And I appreciate both of you gentlemen.
Of course.
You're so welcome, Elaine. And I asked that question specifically because you're such an inspiration. What you have gone through, what you have done, your willingness to take control, and really, self-care is a huge part of kindness. You are here today because you're willing to take charge of your life and give yourself the self-care that you needed. You cared about you,
Yeah.
and you cared about the rest of us who care about you, because the world would not be the same without Elaine in it right now. And
Yeah.
so we love and appreciate you. Now, we could go on talking for a long time, but we need to wrap up. But before we do, we'd like to just ask, what are one or two or even three little nuggets about kindness that you would like to share with our audience? Maybe it's some parting words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, as Evia likes to call them.
Pearls of
Yes.
wisdom, yeah.
Yeah.
And not just about kindness, be kindness to yourself too. Like this, I mean,
Kindness to yourself, however you want to do it. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I would say to I guess to summarize or encapsulate what we've been talking about, the importance of recognizing that kindness isn't an outward always an outward facing thing. It's also part of how you take care of yourself, and recognizing that in taking care of yourself, that allows you the opportunity to take care of others and show grace and kindness to others as well. And then, of course, to wrap that third little piece in is that allowing others to share kindness into your life is actually not only a kindness to yourself and receiving that, but it also shows them that you appreciate them, that you are gracious in your receipt of that. And it creates this beautiful way that both of you feel more comfortable in sharing that kindness with each other and receiving that kindness, so that I think it creates that environment where we can inspire others to not only give, but also receive graciously and humbly as well. Um, because I do think that our world is inspired by acts of kindness. You know, there's a lot of research that shows when you see someone else do something kind, you're more likely to do that, even if you don't directly participate in that interaction. And I like that idea of the ripple effect of when we're kind to each other, when we receive kindness graciously from each other, then we can inspire others to do the same.
So truly, with kindness, everyone wins.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That is
Absolutely. I love
beautiful.
that.
How can our audience connect with you if they want to reach out and get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
The best way would be on my LinkedIn account. I am super sorry that as part of my self-care, I do have to manage my energy and my time very well, but that is the best way for people to reach out to me. And I do promise eventually, I will get back to you. But just understand that as part of my self-care to myself, I might not do it as promptly as maybe I've done in years past, but I will get back to you. But yes, my LinkedIn would be the preferred way.
Thank you for coming on our show and just being so open and so vulnerable. And it's so beautiful, and just our hearts are overflowing right now. So I can tell you, we love you so much.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
We're so glad that you're here to be seen. We love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our audience. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen, to watch, to join us in having the opportunity to share these great experiences with you. And we thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Take care. And until then, remember, with kindness, everybody wins.